Hello, my name is Jocelyn Brandon, and I serve as the Director of Equity Projects for Student Ready Strategies. A part of our organization's mission is to partner and problem solve with institutions and systems as they evolve to ensure the success of diverse students and address inequities within higher education. A part of that work is addressing the cost of education, and one approach to that is the implementation of open education resources. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Dr. Monica Garcia Brooks about open educational resources and the efforts taking place in West Virginia and at her institution. Dr. Monica Garcia Brooks is the Dean of Libraries at Marshall University and has been active in the state's academic libraries for close to 35 years. She's a past president of the West Virginia Library Association, a member of the steering committee for West Virginia's Electronic Resource Library Consortium, and a faculty member for West Virginia Rocks, the Higher Education Policy Commission's accelerated online Bachelor of Arts completion program for West Virginia residents. In addition to all that, she works on statewide open educational resource and open textbook initiatives, digital literacy, and copyright education. So thank you again, Dr. Brooks, for chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
So let's just hop right in. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to a career in library sciences?
Well, I'm a West Virginia native from the northern part of the state, the skinny part at the top, and had the wonderful opportunity growing up to work at my mom's library at West Liberty at then was State College. And just doing things for her, like shelving books and putting things away at the end of the semester. I got bit by the bug and thought, wow, this is such a great environment. Everybody's nice. It's so cool to be surrounded by books all the time and activities and fun things. So it seemed like a logical progression for me as then later an English major to kind of partner the two things that I love.
That's awesome. I actually used to help shelve books when I was in school, so I spend a lot of time. So I have that connection with you.
Awesome. That's where everybody starts.
Yeah. So you've worked in higher ed for a while. What would you say was the turning point or like key moment where higher education leaders realized that the cost of textbook was a major issue and needed to be addressed?
So, I divulged, pretty much my age by blabbing that I've been in libraries that long. But interestingly, 30 years ago when I was in library school, the professors were warning about how we would be struggling in our careers as librarians with publishers, because while they still have the mission of providing information to their users, they're still corporations and they're still looking at bottom lines for their stakeholders and their owners. So balancing that was always a big topic when I was in school, and then of course in subsequent years as a librarian. Really and truly, the concept of making affordable materials available to people really didn't take off until we all had access to networks, because even with networks being so prevalent, the internet, et cetera, people having their mobile devices on, this still doesn't mean that everybody has access, because there is an equity divide in regard to digital access. But really, the recent couple of years, it's taken off because now there's the ability for institutions to provide access to students. It's a little easier for authors and content holders to hit send and actually publish something directly from their own desktops. And also, disciplines are kind of coming around to the concept of, hey, we are the peer reviewers. We're in control of our own scholarly content. Why don't we get together and determine what should be considered for promotion and tenure, or whatever the support might be. So I've seen it really evolve, even though we've been talking about it for 30 years. I've seen it accelerate in the last couple because of really the proliferation and access to digital content.
And so, how would you describe what OER is to someone who's unfamiliar?
I know this is kind of an amorphous blob to a lot of people because we have to explain what the OER acronym stands for, because we use our jargon in our profession. But once you talk about the concept of open, and that open can mean free or affordable, and then describe the publishing concept of, okay, we're accustomed to the old publishing models of going to the bookstore and buying a book. in physical format. Now that, people have Kindles and other mobile readers, they're coming around to the idea that some of this content could also be distributed digitally. So what I try to explain to students especially is, wouldn't it be awesome is, instead of having that giant armload of physical books when you leave the bookstore and, sign away your financial aid check or give mom and dad's credit card over, or maybe your own credit card if you're an adult student, of course. Wouldn't it be awesome if you didn't have to even do that and your professor provided everything you needed within your course, or directed you to maybe the library where we provide materials, or to some other entity like a network where you pay a nominal fee and have access to everything? So I think, if you kind of say, all right, instead of walking out of the bookstore with your arms hurting and your paycheck or your pocketbook hurting, let's think about flipping the narrative on that and providing these materials in your courses without cost.
Student ready strategies, we try to be equity centered in everything that we do, and equity is embedded in our mission. Can you talk about how OER is a strategy for equity?
It's a tremendous opportunity, because we know that, okay, back in the days of when all of our courses required physical textbooks and they were quite pricey, we know from our experience at the library, a lot of our students, especially from lower SES environments, or students of color, or our students who might be first generation college students, or students who might be second or third generation born in the United States if they have immigrant parents or grandparents, those students struggle, because that could mean whether or not they pay rent, buy books or pay rent, buy books or pay utilities, buy books or even eat that month. So that makes it really rough on a student. So we have seen faculty, especially who are very concerned about this, leverage open educational resources, affordable textbooks, and open textbooks to really provide an opportunity for those students who probably would be at a disadvantage. In some cases, they wouldn't buy books, and we would find out maybe 4 weeks in that somebody's been using an interlibrary loan, or somebody has been sharing a book, or they've gone to the copy machine and we go la la la, we don't look, and may have copied the stuff that they need illegally, but whatever it takes, right? But for those students who are at risk because of the finances, this is a tremendous equalizer. In Appalachia, we see a lot of students who are struggling in that regard, and we even have programs to provide food for them through our local food banks and also the university food bank. So it's kind of an all-encompassing issue to ensure that those students who are really close to the bone have access not only to their educational materials, but even sometimes something to eat that evening.
And thinking about it, I guess from the scholar side of it, the non-student side, I saw something online about what OER has done to scholars of color, because I read a little bit about, the research that you do personally, and how when faculty, are intentional about using OER, how they learn about underrepresented scholars and how that helps the scholars and gets their scholarship out there more. And so I thought about that as well with thinking about like the strategy for equity, how it's not just benefiting the students, but benefiting diverse scholarship and diverse voices.
That's a great point, because, if you're involved at all in publishing your own work, you know that there are some entities that require that the author pay in order to get their items into whatever publication. It might be a serial, or, a recurring journal, or a book compilation. They might actually request $1,000 or a $500 fee. And then you sign your agreement that signs your own intellectual property rights away. So, I'm not anti-publisher, because they serve a tremendous service, especially for libraries, and we've been great partners throughout my career. But I do wince at the fact that there are some models out there that do take away intellectual property rights to authors, and also require that authors have to chunk up some dough in order to be published, to play that promotion and tenure game. So yes, this is another wonderful aspect to that, to provide more access, especially to scholars of color and women, and entities that don't have all of the trappings of, the normal academic environment.
So what type of impact have you seen with OER at Marshall and then just the state of West Virginia in general?
So at Marshall, it's been amazing. This effort actually came out of our student government group here at Marshall in conjunction with institutional research and finance, of all people. These three groups got together and worked on a proposal to make a pitch to the university to fund some aspects of promoting OER so that faculty could also get bit by the bug and see the tremendous benefit to utilizing these types of materials. So the library was really fortunate to get in on this after they had already laid the groundwork. And then we facilitated providing the workshops for the hands-on experience for faculty, and also encouraging them to really utilize their critical thinking skills to research materials, write reviews to ensure that what they're getting is a good quality product, because of course that has been something that people have criticized the OER movement, rightly or wrongly. If you shouldn't criticize unless you get your nose in there and look at materials yourself, especially in your discipline, and write that review and determine from your own structure, okay, whether or not this is a viable resource. That helps everyone. So our effort really dovetailed on that and has taken off over the last 5 or 6 years to grow tremendously. The last time I looked at our stats just for fall, Marshall University has close to 1,000 classes that are using some kind of either free book, no book, or affordable material. We like to use our $80 average, $80 per book as per the book trade, because of course inflation impacts that. I've seen that grow from $64 over the last 20 some years to now 81. And so just at Marshall University, we're blown away that the number of students in those roughly about 1,000 classes has brought our savings over $500,000 for just the fall semester. And of course, that's kind of a vapor number, because there are some classes that probably never would have had a book or wouldn't have had an $80 book. But we feel that since there's so many STEM courses also utilizing open educational resources now, which we applaud, that it evens out. So for us, that's a pretty amazing savings. And we're
Yes,
keeping it up, and we're hoping to grow it each semester. For the state, I know that your colleagues who are working with the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission have been amazing. They've helped bring that program to fruition over the last couple of years, to where we have so many faculty who are clamoring for these wonderful grants to revamp courses and adopt OER materials. The energy is electric when I've participated in the communities of practice. Okay, we're in a pandemic, and yet everybody is smiling, everybody's excited about what they're doing, and everybody is anxious to talk about what they're doing. I think the energy at the state level has really helped drive this at each of our campuses, and also provided another tremendous outlet for anything happening on your campus can be parlayed into, wow, check it out, we're doing this at the state level. So I've loved being part of that, and also seeing people from all the different schools in the state of West Virginia have an opportunity to collaborate and meet. Because we haven't been able to do that for the last 3 years, Our meetings that were all canceled, our face-to-face meetings. So I could tell that, the timing, I mean, it was a horrible thing to live through a pandemic, but the timing was perfect for this to take off, because we were all transferring over to virtual and online. And whoa, copyright, of course, makes it difficult to transfer materials to students in that environment, as we want to protect people's intellectual property. But at the same time, we need mechanisms for providing equitable access to content.
And I've been able to engage recently with some faculty who participate in the community practice. And like you said, just the energy that they have around OER implementation and being able to talk about what progress they've made, I can tell that they're really excited and thankful for that opportunity. So.
Great.
So what about faculty who are interested in adopting OER? What would you suggest be one of their first steps if they like, I don't know where to start? What do you tell those faculty?
So that could be a killer because it can be so daunting. I mean, it would be like starting your profession and someone saying, all right, to make tenure, you have to write a book. Okay. We know from just interacting with our colleagues, thankfully, librarians don't have to do that. We still publish, but we don't have to write a book to keep our jobs. But we know a lot of our colleagues in other disciplines, that's a big stressor. So we work really hard to encourage faculty to have our open door policy, to meet with the OER librarians here at Marshall. We're so fortunate we have such talent among that group, who really are the driving force behind all this. I'm the ringmaster. They are the actual on the ground folks who are just so awesome to go to various department meetings and meet directly with faculty, kind of dispel those myths about publishing something of their own. And also describing how many networks are available to them, wonderful quality networks. We use the Open Textbook Library, for example. We subscribe to that, and we make sure that all our faculty are aware of that content. And also reviewing things themselves to see if they're going to implement those 5 R's and, remix something, adapt something that's already there. Don't start from scratch and think that you have to spend the next 2 years or take a sabbatical to write a book, but rather find the best of the things out there that meet your teaching style and your research needs, and convey the material that you're anxious to convey to your students in your classroom. So I think once we meet with somebody and we show them where they can get to the material and how they can review it and look at it critically, that kind of dispels some of the trepidation that people might have when they think, oh my gosh, I am not going to have time to write my own textbook, and explain, you don't have to. Now, if you want to, we'll support you 100%. But, let's ease into that if that's going to be your ultimate goal.
Yeah. And you said the phrase a couple times during our time today, tenure and promotion. And so that made me think, how do you see OER being used or evaluated, if at all, in the tenure and promotion process? That's a question I've been seeing kind of frequently with OER.
Yes. And actually, I just attended the Doers 3 conference in Denver. I was remote, but still I, pretended that the elevation was affecting me. But also an amazing group of people. The Higher Education Policy Commission had representation there. Dr. Corley Dennison was there on their behalf. But that was a big, big discussion because we are seeing more and more disciplines embracing open publishing and open access content for that purpose, mainly because they can control their editorial boards, their scholarly peer review process, and they can control those electronic networks that they actually publish to. So as we see more of those networks grow throughout the country, professional associations and organizations that accept different types of material for the P&T consideration are starting to broaden those horizons and accept more types of content. So, in my academic history, I'm aware that people groan when they say, oh, that was a vanity press he or she published on, Okay, so it's not like that. We can all publish with Amazon now, or probably create something on our desktop and make it look really slick and impressive. But that's not what this is. This is a whole network that is really the force behind it being the peer-reviewed individuals in the profession, where you have legitimate editorial boards and groups of people who are assessing materials and vetting them, just like you would for a print journal. So I think that's the model that is going to get the attention more. And as I said, some disciplines have already made the switch or are gradually getting their toe wet into that area because they're trying to see, okay, just how prolific is this type of publishing. So we've got some very impressive journals here at Marshall. Even one of our medical journals, which is one of our pioneer journals, is internationally known and has really made an impact on the research literature. So we're seeing more and more journals be published in that fashion, and more academic colleagues really be successful in that process. So I think it depends on the discipline, if they're ready. It depends on the quality of the materials that they're publishing with, which of course, if the peers are involved, it's going to be very good. And then, just in general, your institution has to be able to work that into the P&T models and accept varied types of materials.
Was there anything that I didn't ask or anything additional you want to share about OER and your involvement with that effort?
Well, from your capacity, I know that your company is really the driving force behind helping people keep organized. And that's probably one of the things that people struggle from, the melt that might happen when you start a project and then you kind of, meh, because other things happen, life happens, work happens, things can get crazy. So I really think that having a partner with Student Ready Strategies is important for the state of West Virginia, and that's been very successful. And I hope that other entities consider that kind of model, because there's a lot of moving parts, as you well know, to any kind of effort. And in order for us not to fade away, we need people like you all behind the scenes promoting us and keeping us on track. So I think that's one of the secrets to our success, and I think it's very, very, very helpful for the state.
Oh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. SRS really appreciates that. So, and we enjoy working with West Virginia on OER. It's been a lot of fun over the past couple of years. So, well, thank you so much, Dr. Brooks. That concludes our time, and you can learn more about OER and the efforts in West Virginia on our website.